Level 1 husband. She was not where she said she was. 17 times across 4 months. You know this because of a parking stub. A cloud backup she forgot was still running. And she said the name Marcus, as though it didn't matter. Marcus is a yoga instructor. Sandals in November. You found him completely unremarkable. 11 days to confirm it. You documented everything before you said a single word. Photographs, timestamps, a folder copied to an external drive. Your divorce lawyer described the documentation as unusually thorough and looked at you the way people look at someone they can't quite categorize. You felt destroyed. Underneath the destruction, something quieter. Something that had nothing to do with the marriage and everything to do with the 11 days. You told Dave at a bar. Just Dave. Once. Just to process it. Dave paid you $200 cash and called you a genius. You are going to be very good at this. You don't know yet what that costs. Level 2, the guy Dave told everyone about. Dave told 6 people. This was 4 days after you told Dave. You know it was 6 because you have since spoken to all of them. 5 professionally and 1 by accident at a barbecue where you were trying to get a drink. The phone keeps ringing. You don't have a business name. You don't have a contract. You have a Notes app document titled Stuff and a solve rate that has no business being 100%. And strangers keep calling a number that traces back to Dave, who has become, without your consent, your entire marketing operation. You find what they're looking for, every time. Your methods are unhinged in ways that should not produce the results they produce. You once delivered a pizza to the wrong address specifically to see who answered the door. The address was the right address. The pizza was wrong. The door opened and what you needed was standing in the hallway. You charged $300. When the client asked how, you said surveillance. Technically accurate. You get the PI license. The exam has 120 questions. You pass on the first attempt without studying, which you find mildly insulting on behalf of the profession. The website costs $180. It comes with a stock photo of a magnifying glass you didn't choose and can't find how to remove. You leave it. 12 active clients. Nobody mentions the website. Then a woman calls about her brother. Not infidelity. 3 weeks without a returned call. She doesn't know if something happened or if he simply stopped. You take it because the phone rang. 4 days. He moved apartments and told no one. He was fine. He called to thank you, and you held the phone and didn't know what to do with gratitude from a stranger, which felt different from being right. You hadn't expected the difference. You charged $200. You thought about that case longer than any infidelity case, not because it was difficult, because for 4 days you weren't working from damage. You were looking for a person. The person was okay. That felt like a different category of work entirely. The plan is already clear. 2 years, maybe 3. Build the base, move towards something more serious when the time is right. But the missing person case has opened something the infidelity work never touched. You are good at finding what people hide. You've known that since the parking stub. What you didn't know until this week is that you might also be good at finding people before they stop being findable. That is a different skill. That one might be worth building a life around. 2 years, maybe 3. Level 3, the licensed PI. A woman hires you to find her daughter. Not missing, estranged. 19 years old, left after an argument 14 months ago. Last known address, a shared flat in a city 3 hours away. The woman has tried twice. Both times the daughter didn't answer the door. You find her in 6 days. She is fine, employed, and has a specific reason for not answering the door that has nothing to do with being in danger. She does not want to be found by her mother. You explain this to the client as gently as the situation allows. The client is not satisfied. She wants more. She wants contact established, a message delivered, a reconnection arranged. She is paying you to override her daughter's decision. You decline. You refund the balance. You hang up and sit with the call for longer than you should. This is new. The infidelity cases had clean endings, confirmation, documentation, the decision handed back to the client. This case had no clean ending. The daughter was fine. The mother was not getting what she wanted. Both things were true and neither resolved the other, and you were in the middle of it with no move that didn't cost someone something. You take 3 more missing person cases that year. One is straightforward. One ends the same way as the daughter found, intact, deliberately unreachable for reasons that are their own. The third one you don't find. A man mid-40s gone 11 days before his sister calls you. You work it for 3 weeks. You find evidence of where he was. You don't find him. That case stays open in the Notes app document for 8 months. You add an entry occasionally. The entries stop. The case stays. You have been a licensed PI for 18 months. You have a client base, a functional if minimal reputation, and a growing understanding that the work divides cleanly into two categories: the cases where you find what someone is hiding, and the cases where you find what someone has lost. You are good at the first category. The second one is teaching you something different about what good means. The plan is still the plan. 2 years, maybe 3, then something more serious. The something more serious is clarifying. You've looked into it. Application windows, intake requirements, the transfer pathway for candidates with investigative backgrounds. You have a folder on your laptop. It has 3 documents in it. You've opened it 11 times and closed it without doing anything. On the 12th time, you fill out the form. Level 4, Police Constable. You are 31 years old, and you are the oldest person in your intake by 8 years. The trading officer is 24 and has never done anything except this. He explains the filing system with the confidence of someone who has never filed anything that cost him anything. You direct traffic for 6 weeks. You do it carefully because you do everything carefully, and because 4 hours in an intersection gives you an unreasonable amount of time to notice things nobody has asked you to notice. On day 9, you flag a behavioral inconsistency to your supervising officer. Wrong footwear for the stated activity. Eye movement that didn't match the account being given 2 meters to your left. The officer is not looking for a flag. He processes it the way institutions process things arriving outside the designated intake channel. The flag was correct. 6 weeks later, someone else makes the arrest using a method that was yours. The report doesn't mention you. What happened in those 6 weeks didn't need to happen. You know this. You write it in the Notes app and then delete it. You tell yourself this is the foundation. The plan has always required a foundation. You are building towards something, and the rank comes before the recognition, and you believe this. You have to believe this. Then the rooster. A noise complaint. A second-floor apartment. A rooster that is not frightened of you, which you find professionally insulting. You spend 40 minutes on it. You file a detailed report as you file everything in the precise and thorough manner that got your divorce lawyer to look at you strangely. Your sergeant reads the report and makes a face you cannot fully interpret. Not dismissal, something more complicated. That face stays with you, not because of the rooster. Because it means the institution is sorting you into a category and hasn't told you which one yet. Your first on-call shift. Quiet. Nothing happens. You stay awake the entire night with the radio on the kitchen table, running through every way things could go wrong. Nothing does. You go in the next morning on 2 hours of sleep. Your supervising officer asks how the shift went. Fine, you say. You mean it, mostly. Somewhere on the other side of the building, a real case is being assigned to someone with the right rank. You can feel the direction of it without being able to see it. The rank gap between what you know and what you're allowed to do is the most expensive distance you've ever had to cross. You start crossing it. Level 5, Detective Constable. You passed the detective exam easily. This annoyed people who had studied longer, which was most people. You understand this. You can't help it. Your first assigned case, a burglary where the suspect left his own wallet at the scene. Not near the scene. Inside the property. You solve it in 4 hours and feel nothing in particular. And then you see the stack of 34 other cases on your desk and stop being surprised by the nothing. The serious cases go to senior detectives. You get the cases where the answer is obvious and the paperwork is not. You are very good at the paperwork. You resent being very good at the paperwork in the specific way you can only resent a skill being used to keep you precisely where you are. A serious case lands on your desk by mistake. Reassign before you finish reading the file. You read enough. Witness statements with a pattern no one flagged, a physical detail inconsistent with the timeline. The kind of thing you used to catch on cases that paid $200. You mention it to the reassigning officer. He nods the way people nod when they're already thinking about something else. 6 months later, the case closes. The outcome was exactly what you saw from page 3. 6 months of damage that didn't need to happen. The senior detective working it is mentioned in the summary. You are not mentioned anywhere. This is the thing that stays. Your daughter's school play is on a Thursday in November. You have it in the calendar, not the Notes app. The actual calendar, which you consider a meaningful evolution in intention. A case breaks at 6 p.m. Insurance fraud. A man who claimed a back injury and was photographed moving furniture. The case does not require you specifically. You stay anyway because the paperwork needs filing and the rank requires the paperwork and the plan requires the rank. The play starts at 7. You leave at 8:30. Your daughter asks the next morning if you saw the part where she forgot her line and improvised. You say yes. You watch 12 minutes of the recording. A call came in at 12 minutes and 16 seconds. You know this because you checked. 12 minutes. A private security firm calls that week. Regular hours, real pay, no on-call. You decline. The rank matters. The brand matters. 2 more years minimum. You are starting to notice that the plan requires you to say that last sentence more often than it used to. And that saying it is starting to feel less like a strategy and more like a reflex. Level 6, Detective Sergeant. There is a man on your team named Gary who has been weeks away from retirement for 3 years. You understand, after working with Gary for 4 months, that Gary is not retiring. Gary will be weeks away from retirement when you are promoted past him, and when you leave, and probably some years after that. Gary is a structural feature of the institution, like the broken printer on the 2nd floor that everyone reports and nobody fixes. You are responsible for Gary now. This was not in the plan. You manage 4 detectives. You review their cases, sign their overtime, attend briefings where decisions are made that you then translate into tasks for people doing the actual work. You are very good at this translation. You are not certain this is the same thing as being a detective, and the distinction occupies more of your thinking than it should. A high-profile case lands on your desk, genuinely complex. Conflicting forensics, a timeline that collapses under pressure, 3 suspects whose accounts are each internally consistent and mutually exclusive. You pull the threads for 48 hours. The key inconsistency is a traffic camera that wasn't operational on the date of the alibi. Nobody had checked. The case breaks open. The feeling lasts 40 minutes before Gary needs his overtime approved and the printer is broken again. You are quoted in a newspaper as a senior source familiar with the investigation. You read the quote. It is accurate. It sounds like someone you don't quite recognize. Your son's birthday is on a Saturday in March. You are present for most of it. You leave at 7 p.m. for a callout that is a misread address on a report filed in a hurry. False alarm. You drive back. The cake is mostly gone. Your son says it was fine. He says it the way people say things are fine when they have already decided not to make it a problem. You sit in the car in the driveway for a few minutes before going inside. You don't know what you're waiting for. You tell yourself next quarter will be lighter. You have said this for 4 quarters. The sentence is losing its meaning in the way that any sentence loses its meaning when you repeat it past the point of evidence. You believe the quarters will get lighter. You have to believe the quarters will get lighter. What you haven't examined yet is the space between those 2 sentences. It is not large, but it is growing, and growth in that direction only goes one way. Level 7, Detective Inspector. You are fine. You mean it. You're fine. You're not happy. Happy feels like something that belongs to the version of you sitting in a car at midnight eating gas station sushi and writing hunches in a Notes app document titled Stuff. That version operated on damage and a solve rate he didn't understand. You miss him in a way you wouldn't say out loud and aren't entirely sure you understand. Junior officers Google your old cases before briefings now. Your name appears in training materials from 2019, a methodology you developed on a case you barely remember, cited as standard procedure by people who weren't in the room. You sit in meetings where decisions are made about investigations you understand better than anyone present, including the people making the decisions. You contribute. Your contributions land. You drive home and cannot tell whether the day mattered. You stopped carrying the notebook 3 months ago. You didn't notice until a detective constable on your team mentioned seeing it in a commendation photo from 2017 and asked if you still used it. You told her you didn't need it anymore. Accurate. It didn't feel like progress. Your daughter called on a Tuesday with no particular reason. Just a call. You were in a budget meeting. You called back 4 hours later. She said it was fine, just checking in, nothing important. You thought about the 4 hours for 2 days afterward, not guilt exactly, but the particular unease of recognizing a pattern and being unable to decide whether recognizing it constitutes doing something about it. A consulting firm approached you that same month. Director-level position, meaningful autonomy, significant compensation. You interviewed. You liked the people. You declined. You told yourself the institutional weight you'd built still had utility, that leaving now would mean starting over in a system that didn't know your name. You know you were lying. You said something similar to yourself 5 years earlier about a different offer. And you stayed then too. And the staying was correct then. And you are less certain it is correct now. And the uncertainty is new enough that you don't yet know what to do with it. What you do is return to the office on Wednesday. You open the case files. You are very good at this. You are not sure anymore that being very good at something is a sufficient reason to keep doing it. You don't examine that thought too closely. Not yet. Level 8, Detective Chief Inspector. You are 51. Your name is in a textbook. Not a chapter about you, a footnote in a methodology section, cited as the origin of an interview approach now taught in 3 countries. You think about this occasionally. Mostly you think about it when something built on that method fails and your name appears in the incident review. 3 of your cases became books. 1 became a television series. They got your hair wrong. You watched 2 episodes. You did not watch the 3rd. Your compensation last year was significant. The year before, more. The year before that, less. The variation has stopped meaning anything. You have a pension your financial advisor describes as overfunded, which is a strange category for a problem, but it is the kind of problem that only arrives at the end of a very specific kind of life. Your 2nd marriage survived. This is the accurate phrasing. You married again at 38. She knew what she was getting into. You were explicit about it in a way you hadn't been the first time, as though disclosure would function as protection for both of you. You were careful with each other from the beginning. You are still careful with each other now. The carefulness has not softened into warmth the way you both assumed it eventually would. The knowing didn't make it different. It made the same outcome feel chosen, which carries its own particular weight. Your daughter called last month. No reason. Just a call. You picked up on the 2nd ring. She noticed. She didn't say she noticed. You knew she noticed because you noticed her noticing. And that silent exchange, 2 people reading the gap in each other, felt like more communication than most of the actual conversations you'd had all year. Your son stopped asking when you'd be home when he was 9. You don't know the exact date. One day he was asking and then he wasn't, and you didn't mark it because you didn't know it was a thing that could stop. He is 23 now. He calls on birthdays. The calls are warm and last about 12 minutes, which is longer than the 12 minutes of her play he'd managed to watch before the phone rang, and shorter than what was lost by not being there. You could retire. You don't know what you would do. You stay. The plan has not been mentioned in 11 years. You remember it accurately and without feeling. 2 years, maybe 3. Somewhere tonight there is a parking stub in a coat pocket. Someone is about to find it. They don't know yet what finding it starts. Level 9, the cycle. Right now, somewhere, a 34-year-old is sitting in a car outside a restaurant. Engine off. Coffee cold. He has been watching the window for 40 minutes, and he is getting better at it, though he doesn't know yet that getting better is the thing to notice. He found a parking stub in her coat pocket last week. A neighborhood she'd never mentioned on a Tuesday afternoon, time-stamped 2:47 p.m. He put it back. He wasn't ready to use it yet. He is not a detective. He works in logistics. He is going to be very good at this and does not know it yet. He will tell a friend. The friend will tell someone else. He has a plan already forming 2 years, maybe 3, something more serious after that. Clean, simple, sensible. The plan feels original. It is not original. It is the same plan, reissued in the same envelope, to a different person who has no reason to recognize the handwriting. He doesn't know that in 20 years someone will get his hair wrong in a television adaptation. He doesn't know that his son will stop asking when he's coming home, and that he won't mark the date when it happens, because he won't know it's the kind of thing that can stop. He doesn't know about the 2nd marriage, or about being careful with someone, or about what it means to choose the same outcome twice with full information. He opens his phone, searches PI licensing requirements, finds a website immediately stock photo of a magnifying glass, template design, clearly built by someone with other things on their mind. He thinks, I could do better than that. He opens the Notes app, types one word, stuff. He puts the phone down and looks back at the restaurant window. He reaches into his jacket and takes out the parking stub. He holds it under the dim light, turning it in his fingers the way you turn something that has just changed its category from trash to evidence. He looks at it like it is a door. He is right. It is a door. What he doesn't know is what's on the other side, not just the confirmation he's looking for, but everything that comes after the confirmation. The cases, the rank, the rooster, the 12 minutes of a school play, the notebook he'll one day stop carrying without noticing, the calls he'll return 4 hours late, the son who learns not to ask. He doesn't know any of that. The machine doesn't care what he knows. The machine just needs new parts. The cycle continues. If this one stayed with you, like and drop a comment where you're watching from. Subscribe for more.